I'm going to be taking the next lecture also. I have unfortunately had a few dropouts in the course because of medical reasons. Some of our speakers are not well or they have medical problems in the family. So you will see a few of us come up once or twice. The next two instruments that I'm going to talk about are instruments which are very popular for their portability, the Tonopen and the Rebound tonometer. And we all have these situations. We have children, we have irregular corneas, we have patients with infections, we have bedridden patients, post-PK, all things which are difficult to measure. And both the Tonopen and the Rebound are very portable. The Tonopen is based on the Mackey-Mark principle. I'm not really going to go into details about that. It's battery operated, can be used in any position, and the Applanation tip is much smaller than the Goldmann Applanation tip, which means in a scarred cornea too, you can get reasonable readings. You have two devices, two models out there. One is the Tono-Pen XL, which is the older model, and you have the Tono-Pen Avia, which is the newer model. The basic principle is the same, and before you do that, you need to use this tip, which can be sterile or unsterile, and you may need to make sure that you put that on correctly so that it's not too loose or too tight and affects your readings that way. So basically, you need anesthesia. The tip is covered with a latex sleeve. You hold the lid open and you rapidly applanate using this on the central cornea. A short beep is made on produced by the instrument when your measurement is made. So for the Tono-Pen XL, the older model, you need 4 reliable measurements before it gives you a beep. For the Avia, it requires 10 measurements before it gives you the beep. And this is essentially how it's done. What is recommended is that every day before you use the instrument, you need to calibrate it. Calibration takes about 20 seconds. If the calibration is good, you can go ahead with the procedure. And you just rest your fingers on the cheek of the patient, lift up the upper lid and applanate. So that's the pressure that you're getting there. And you also get error reading of how reliable that pressure is. And basically, you will see a line there which tells you how reliable it is. So if the line is at the 5% mark, it tells you that the reliability is 95%, and it is recommended that you use only readings which are at the 5% mark. Again, with the Tono-Pen, it's very often recommended that you take a mean of 3 readings in order to get what you want. With the Avia, it gives the intraocular pressure the same way, but it sort of gives you the actual figures of 95% confidence instead of just the 5%. The other advantage of the Avia is that this sort of screen that you see is there on both sides. So you don't need to bend your head to look at it. You can look at it either way, use left-handed or right-handed. I just briefly cover the bland and Northman plot, which I'm going to show you a couple of times in the next few slides. Basically, whenever you compare two devices, there are two things that you're interested in. One is what is the mean difference, and the second is if you do the test 100 times, in what range are the values likely to be? In what range are these differences likely to be? And this is a plot which is basically designed to look at that. So this axis tells you what is the mean of readings between both instruments for one eye, and this axis tells you how different those readings are for each eye. And you basically plot the plot between these two, and this difference will tell you what the range of values will be in 95% of these individuals. So when you look at Tono-Pen versus Goldmann Applanation tonometry in normal eyes, if you look at this line of equality, you find that all those readings are clustered around it, and most of the readings, the mean difference in a normal eye is 0. That means both are very, very close to each other. But the range of differences, even with this mean difference, is -5 to +5. So 95% of the time, your intraocular pressure readings in a normal eye with the Tono-Pen will range from 5 mm less to 5 mm more of normal. What about in glaucoma size? Here you'll see a much larger spread. If you remember the last graph, everything was clustered together. Here you see a much larger spread. Sorry. And here you see that the mean difference is actually 4 mm less than Goldmann Applanation tonometer, and the range of measurements is up to 15 mm less to 7 mm more. So in glaucoma size, the variation with the Tono-Pen is much more than in normal eyes. And that's one of the reasons, again, why we don't recommend that you use this routinely to follow all your glaucoma patients. And this will tell you, it shows you this information that in the physiological range, the mean differences are small. As the pressure goes up, the Tonopen tends to underestimate readings. And this difference is statistically significant at higher readings. I'm just going to compare these two briefly, and what you see over here is basically both of them are easy to use. The Avia requires 10 measurements, maintenance is similar for both, and you do have a recurring cost of the probe or the battery. It's recommended that you clean this on a daily basis to spray the probe tip, and that needs to be done depending how frequently that needs to be done depends on how often you use the device. So it's not maintenance free absolutely. We next move to the Rebound tonometer, and the principle is pretty similar. It's in a way unique. You have this probe which floats in this tip, and it goes and it bounces against a cornea, and the slowing of the probe tells you how hard the eye is, and therefore from that you can derive what the intraocular pressure is. There are three versions. This is the first version which came out. This is this version which lets you to do it in a vertical position, and this version for self-tonometry, which patients can use. No anesthetic is required, and I will just show you how that is done. So this is the thing that the probe tip comes inside that. The probe tip is not sterile, and you must that should be remembered. You load it onto this device like that. You rest it against the forehead, and you can see that bouncing of the cornea. Again, because this is a very, very brief applanation moment, you need to take multiple readings. And what is recommended is 6 readings. Once you finish 6 readings, you will get a value, you will get P over there and a value of whatever the value of the reading is. You will also see a black line which may be at the bottom, at the middle, or at the top, which tells you how accurate that reading is. If you compare the Rebound tonometer versus Applanation, you find that it consistently overestimates intraocular pressures by about 2 millimeters, and the range of this difference can be between -4 and +7. Again, fairly large. This is our own experience with the Rebound. It replicates what the other studies have shown, not very much difference. One of the concerns with the Rebound is that if you are not keeping it straight vertically, so keeping it slightly sideways, does that affect intraocular pressure? And it does seem, if you have more than a 10 degree of not being straight, but 10 degrees off the vertical, you can have some difference in the intraocular pressure. So it's important that you're vertically on the cornea. In terms of Rebound tonometry in children, it is actually better than the NCT in that regard. And at all age groups, you find that the Rebound did consistently more children accurately than the NCT. It requires minimum maintenance, does not require any anesthesia, though it can be a little difficult to use. Those of you who had it done you do feel some sensation when it touches your eye. Just comparing Tono-Pen and the Rebound in terms of recordability of intraocular pressure, you find that both of them, you can record intraocular pressure reliably in most patients, 100%, and with fairly large study sizes that's been consistent across different people. This systematic review of agreement of the tonometers with the Goldmann Applanation tonometer, this is across multiple studies, shows you that the Rebound tonometer consistently overestimates intraocular pressure. The Tonopen slightly underestimates intraocular pressure. The range of these values is not very large, but if you look at this graph, which tells you how many are within 2 millimeters of the Applanation tonometer reading, you find that it's just about 50%. So 50% of the time your reads are going to be 2 millimeters more or less than what you're getting with Applanation. This is a comparison of all the 4 Tonopens currently available. You find that the Tonopen has the disadvantage of more repeated maintenance, and the basic model of the Icare is very difficult to use has to be used only horizontally, cannot be used vertically, while the Tonopen can be used in any position. There are some recurring costs in terms of covers, probes, batteries, and the Icare that we use as standard batteries, which are easier to come by. These are more or less the cost of the Tonopen right now, and these are the recurring costs that you would expect. Icare is a little less expensive than this. I don't have the exact figures with me right now. So in summary, both of these are useful in some situations, but you should be aware of what limitations they have. Thank you.